This review is going to get a little complicated. Let's start things off with this. I don't know if this is just a coincidence or not, but why is it that every single time I'm anticipating a movie that I'm looking forward to immensely, does it always have the gumption to disappoint me? There is definitely a fine line in describing disappointment. Whereas you have one side that disappoints you in a way to where you feel nothing but pity and frustration for everyone involved, and then you have the other where the film gets so many aspects right, but just couldn't breach the finish line in a satisfying display. Ad Astra is the second kind of disappointment. There are so many elements to count from that would measure this film up as being a candidate for being one of the best films of the year. But there are so many key faults of this movie that prevent this film from being a space film to remember. And this film was directed by James Gray, who was responsible for creating one of my favorite films of 2017, The Lost City of Z. A film that brought back the appeal of what it was like to watch old school Hollywood epics again. But unfortunately, Ad Astra isn't under the same caliber as Lost City of Z, and instead strives to be something much more than just an average galaxy quest throughout the solar system, and wants to be a movie that touches on the bond between father and son, while understanding and laying out the themes of fatherhood, space, and humanity, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. And here's why. The plot of Ad Astra is basically what I would describe as Apocalypse Now meets 2001: A Space Odyssey, but with a father-son moral dynamic to it. Brad Pitt cements his role as Mayor Roy McBride, an astronaut who receives word that his father, played by Tommy Lee Jones, is located in a remote part of the solar system, probably somewhere towards Neptune, in which he is harnessing a weapon that unleashes powerful surges that could jeopardize the existence of all human life. So Roy has to embark on a trek throughout the solar system, along with supporting actors such as Donald Sutherland and Ruth Negga, to find his father and resolve this mankind-threatening conflict. I may be the guy who loves movies that have to do with the misunderstanding and the discord between both the father and his son. Oh, okay, maybe not that one. But the story and the premise on their own is just basically simplistic, about how one man is going from one location to the next while encountering visually interesting things and going on set pieces along the way to find the objective and ultimately accomplish their goal. I understand that the film is grasping towards a Kubrick or Coppola style level of writing, like with Apocalypse Now and 2001, and while it just makes the film seem unoriginal despite being told in a completely new coat of paint, I accommodate this film on trying something different on the premise, that is, and talking about the relationships and the misunderstanding between both father and his son. It makes the story feel a bit more personal. But like usual, let's get the positives out of the way. And what better way to start off the positives of this film than to talk about the glaringly obvious. The visual effects in this movie are indescribably beautiful in every sense of the word. They are mesmerizing to a point to where it's hard to find one single perfect adjective to describe them. The spaceships, the satellites, and the colonizations of different parts of the solar system are incredible. But the planets in this movie are some of the best looking planets I have ever seen. Yes, we have seen beautifully made planets such as Mars before, but other planets like Saturn and especially Neptune are gorgeous as hell. I have never seen a more beautifully looking Neptune in all of my life of watching space movies. And this film, in terms of visual effects and scale, is as good as it gets. And I admire the world building that James Gray establishes throughout the film, putting us into a setting that is so mesmerizing that it makes us envision that maybe one day something like this may actually happen. There was a point in this movie where Roy McBride travels to the moon, and there was a colonization there. And you see housing, restaurants, people of different races, religions, creed, and even simple action scenes that happen outside of the colonization, such as that one scene where Roy McBride encounters space pirates. It opens the door for interesting ideas in terms of world building and what could happen in the future. And in terms of performances, the acting is great. Full stop. Brad Pitt as Roy McBride dominates the entire film with his performance. And when he's on screen, it's astonishing on how good he is in this movie. Where he performs at his absolute greatest is mainly just with his eyes. And he does an excellent job at making the audience feel what he is psychologically going through despite looking all stoic and sullen and morose. But most of the elements that could work get compromised by a voiceover that is narrated like an art house film. The Terrence Malick-like soliloquies that Brad Pitt narrates throughout the film through voiceover sometimes enhances the psyche a little bit for our main protagonist, but sometimes it frequently insists upon itself by repeating the exact themes over and over and over again, but through different dialogue. About how much he wants to rebuild a connection with his father, how he doesn't want to be like him and end up all mad and crazy, as well as talking about the philosophies and themes of space and humanity. Although there was one good line of dialogue that I thought was pretty awesome. But other than that, we get it. We understand the message. We understand what your psychological torment and dilemma is like. This is honestly getting repetitive, unnecessary, and somewhat pretentious, and it's slowing the movie's momentum. And speaking of slowing the movie's momentum, oh my god, this movie is so freaking slow. Here's how slow it is. Once the film starts off with its several stunning sequences, like Brad Pitt shooting down the space pirates on the moon, it starts to get slow very fast because the film spends so much of its time on very slow-paced scenes that honestly could have been edited quicker or not have existed entirely. And it just leaves you kind of bored a little bit, and once you finally get to Mars, which is the next checkpoint in Brad Pitt's journey, we're not even halfway through the film yet. The supporting characters, even though actors like Donald Sutherland and Ruth Negga provide adequate performances, their presence isn't really worth talking about as much because they're barely in the film. Of course, you get to know what their characters are like through interactions between Brad Pitt and their characters, but it isn't enough to make them memorable in the grand scheme of things. In fact, it makes them two-dimensional at best, leaving the audience with nothing to empathize with. Oh yeah, and that's another thing that disappoints me about this movie. If you thought that the film would bring us some emotional depth between the characters, you would be sorely misled. The movie's most pivotal scenes in which you see our main character have somewhat of a relatable personality, despite having to act all serious and morose, are not even in the film. And to be honest, that truly underwhelms me. When you were set up for something that could impress you and get you emotionally invested through its trailer, but when the film comes out, it removes most of those things that could have made this film possibly much better, and it just leaves you with an underwhelming sense of disappointment. I would best describe Ad Astra as a sometimes movie. Sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's boring, sometimes it's meaningful and ambitious, sometimes it's pretentious and ostentatious. There are so many interesting and ambitious and promising ideas and concepts that the film could have improved on and leaving us with a satisfying and amazing flick. But I wish that there was more of it and executed well. However, I cannot deny that it's something you should see at least once. Now, I'm not obliging you to directly seek out Ad Astra of sheer importance. It's up to your own interpretation of whether you think it's good or not, but personally for me, I'd say give it a chance. Alright guys, thank you for sticking around in my review of Ad Astra. If you like this review, please like and comment on the video and let me know what you thought of the film. You can also find me on social media outlets such as Twitter, Facebook, and if you have a phone, possibly find me on Instagram. And as always, if you'd like to see more reviews like this, be sure to subscribe for more. Through hardship to the stars, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Nukem. And you have been blown away.